House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is personally blocking a vote to expand Social Security benefits. So now, according to Lee Harris, writing for the American Prospect, House leadership under Pelosi had quietly killed a vote back in July on whether or not to do a modest expansion of Social Security benefits. Now, the bill is Social Security 2100, and it would be the first expansion of the New Deal program in about 50 years. So now, it would increase the amount of all checks by about 2% of the average benefit. Now, the bill, long championed by Representative John Larson, a Democrat of Connecticut, and introduced with nearly 200 co-sponsors, was set for a markup by the Ways and Means Committee in late July before House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office officially axed it. So, great. Now, look, this is a very modest increase of benefits by 2%. It's not like it's a massive, massive increase. And again, the average Social Security benefit is incredibly low. They needed a boost to Social Security benefits yesterday, at least. So now the question is, why would Nancy Pelosi kill this? Isn't this on one of Biden's policy, proposals? Isn't that something that Biden said he believes in, the Democrats? Well, now Biden doesn't have anything to do with this, at least not at the moment. But in an interview, Larson said the bill actually faced most opposition from Nancy Pelosi's lead staffer on domestic policy issues, a man named Wendell Primus. Wendell Primus says, we could do that, or we could just not do that. Oh, okay. Well, what would we do instead then? Turns out they would actually try to do something else, try to actually benefit rich people. But let's get to that later, okay? So now first, Pelosi, her office says, well, we're really focused on passing the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, okay, that's already done. And they also cited concerns from Democrat frontliners, the representatives most vulnerable to a challenge in November elections. Okay, so now Larson added this. Nancy Pelosi said, quote, just keep working the bill, and that's what we've continued to do. And by working just basically means, just keep working on it. We'll take it up eventually, but just keep working on it, okay? We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Okay, so now here's the thing, though. The reasons for that are BS. The bill already has the support of the majority of Democratic frontliners, the ones that Nancy Pelosi says that we were worried about. Now, some of these are Sanford Bishop of Georgia and Matt Cartwright of Pennsylvania. Now, they represent districts that Trump won by several points. Now, here's the thing. If you were to increase Social Security benefits, I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of Republicans that are also on Social Security and actually like the program. Look, Social Security, Medicare are the two most popular programs in the country, beloved by members of both parties. So that's why you even have Republicans when they're campaigning saying, we're going to protect Social Security, we're going to protect your Medicare. Because it would be really stupid to get rid of those programs that are incredibly popular. That said, do Republicans want to get rid of Social Security? Of course they do. Yes, they want to privatize it. In fact, Ron Johnson came out publicly and said, no, we should totally reduce the benefits. We should totally privatize it. Should get rid of it. And by the way, Democrats have also targeted Social Security back during the Obama administration. The Obama administration tried to do the Simpson-Bowles program, the Simpson-Bowles, legislation. They also tried to do the Grand Bargain, which would turn Social Security into a chain CPI program, which effectively meant benefit cuts for retirees. So let's be honest. And look, and even President Biden has traditionally went after Social Security as well. And so understand that there are a lot of people, again, in both parties that are not interested in protecting Social Security, but they just can't because, again, it's incredibly popular among everyone. And it's one of those political sacred cows that if you even try to go near it, there's hell to pay. And that's a good thing. And by the way, it's a great example of why programs should be universal, like Social Security, like Medicare. Because when it's universal, it's very difficult to get rid of. And that's why they're so afraid of making, for example, healthcare universal, or doing, for example, universal free college. So now, that said, let's move on. Now, you're not going to be surprised the reason that Nancy Pelosi has been putting this on the back burner. Now, the bill as written would offset that 2 percentage point increase in benefits through a payroll tax on wages above $400,000. So wealthier people would have to pay a little bit more. Wealthy donors, of course. Sure. Now, in a statement, of course, Pelosi spokesperson Henry Connolly said, oh, well, there's absolutely no question of Democrats' commitment to the strength of Social Security and Medicare. Now, nor sadly is there any doubt about the extreme MAGA Republicans' commitment to destroying these vital pillars of financial security for our seniors, with House and Senate Republicans constantly calling for them to be slashed or even terminated. Now, I don't like the framing here because this is not an extreme MAGA Republican position. As I just explained to you, this is the average Republican position. They don't want to have Social Security. They want to cut Social Security. They want to privatize it so that they can put it on the stock market and they can bet against it and make billions of dollars in profits. That's what they want to do. They want to play games with your retirement. And again, as I mentioned, Republicans want to get rid of the program, but it's also not like Democrats, as I mentioned, are doing a whole lot to protect it or expand it. And as I've mentioned before, there are Democrats that have previously attempted to cut it before as well. And the reason is because they're helping the donors. They're very, very busy helping the donors. And as the Prospect notes, Democrats are set to move ahead after Congress returns from recess with a retirement reform bill that creates new tax cuts for top earners, benefiting asset managers and retirement service plan providers. This is called the Secure Act 2.0. And that's a bill led by House Ways and Means Committee Chair Richard Neal. Richard Neal is a corporate Democrat, and he's an incredibly corrupt corporate Democrat. Now, that raises contribution limits to tax-shielded retirement accounts. Now, the limit, by the way, for those accounts for the contribution is about $22,000 a year. Now, most average workers will never even get close to hitting that cap. I have the numbers on that. According to an analysis by economists at Bloomberg Intelligence, a business analytics service, only about 2% of people making the median American income were able to put away the maximum contribution into that tax-shielded retirement account. So now, what's really going to happen here is the contribution limits, when they are raised, would steer more money towards asset managers like Fidelity and BlackRock. Now, the Bloomberg analysis calls this nothing less than a big bang for mutual funds, which should anticipate a decades-long boost in assets under management and higher fee-based revenue. In fact, a single household can pay as much as $277,969 in retirement account fees over a 40-year span, according to calculations by progressive think tank Demos. Advocacy groups for mutual funds, including the Investment Company Institute and the National Association of Plan Advisors, have praised this act. Many of these groups are longtime significant donors to Richie Neal's campaign. Oh, big surprise. Of course. Of course. Now, in addition to raising contribution limits, the Neal bill also raises the age at which federal law requires savers to take a distribution from their account from 72 to 75. The first Secure Act raised it to 72 in 2019. The provision in the Senate version also would allow retirement savings to be more easily put into long-term care insurance by eliminating a penalty fee for withdrawing funds for that purpose. Long-term care, unaffordable to the average American, is often sold by the same advisors who manage retirement plans and would give them an additional sales pitch. Tax breaks for the richest retirees would also mean a considerable revenue loss for the federal government. An annual revenue loss from retirement plans in 1996, for example, was about $145 billion in 2020. This year, it's just under $380 billion. So there it is. Now, Daniel Hamel, a law professor at New York University, said this is a deeply cynical legislation. It's an attempt to give just enough to low and middle income savers that members of Congress can point to some retirement improvement, while also lavishing benefits on the donor class and then layering on budgetary gimmicks to hide the real cost. So to recap, real quick, Nancy Pelosi is personally blocking a 2% increase on benefits paid for by wealthy Americans. She is the lone holdout. She is not letting this get onto the floor to get voted on, even though it would have 200 co-sponsors. But at the same time, she is supporting Richie Neal's gigantic giveaways to corporate donors. I wonder who she works for. Look, Nancy Pelosi does not work for you. Nancy Pelosi works for her donors. Nancy Pelosi works for the people who pay her money. That's it. If you do want actual change, you've got to get rid of the Nancy Pelosi's. You've got to replace these members of Congress. You've got to replace the Richie Neals. You've got to get rid of those people and replace the system, most importantly, so that these wealthy donors can no longer buy off politicians like they have with Neal and Pelosi and other members of Congress. You've got to get the money out of politics, because if you get the money out of politics, you can end the corruption.